Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming today. We just started. Thank you. Perfect. Well, I received an email today, and there was a very interesting piece of information that I am invited to contribute to a very special new issue of advances in astrophysics. So I really considered publishing there, but I couldn't find anything that would fit there, even though that psychiatry and astrophysics are pretty close. So I decided to decline the offer. The other day came the email inviting me to chair a special issue on schizophrenia in a journal I never heard about. So again, I considered if to contribute there, but my workload was so high that I wasn't able to make it. And even another day, an email came inviting me to take a keynote lecture in an international conference in Singapore in a meeting of a society I never heard of. But I was really thrilled that they recognized me as a suitable keynote speaker in that conference. But unfortunately, I had the other duties, and I couldn't contribute and go to Singapore, even though I've never been there, and I would like to. I would love to be there. So these are the things we are going to talk about today, and I would add one more motivation for today's breakfast, and it is sometimes you see in the media that someone is publicly criticized that he published in such and such journal, and this is something that is not allowed, or that this is immoral to do that, and we just don't understand what's going on. So today our invitation accepted people who can clarify what's going on with these things I just described. And I will start with Jana Rudá, who's involved in neuropsychopharmacology research, and she's. I'm pretty sure that you receive the same emails as me. So you can touch on that from the point of an academia. And we have two guests from the library, campus library, Mr. Kratochvíl and Mr. Plch, who can share the experiences and views from the point of the interaction with publishers and etc. So thank you for accepting our invitation, and let's start talking about predators and how to escape the predators. So we have a few of questions, but perhaps Jana, could you share your experience with what I just described? Do you share it, or do
yeah. I'm commonly invited to neurosurgery or something similar, and mind that 2/3 of that probably land in spam. So this is just what we actually see. But maybe it would be nice to start. Well, I'm no expert in predator journals. Have I ever published in one? I hope not, but it might be sometimes hard to find out. And what I do to avoid it is to select a list of journals that I'm going to try publish, usually overshooting my expectations, starting high and then going slowly lower and lower by impact factor or, impact factor basically, or rank better. So rank within the category. So whether it's Q1, Q2, etc., you all know what rank is. And So I have a list because I honestly don't expect, when I go kind of high, I don't expect to be published in the first journal with the first attempt. So sometimes it takes more tries. And where I find the journals is usually either by experience or by categories in Clarivate in the journal citation report list. I just recently found out that there is also something called master journalist. I have no idea what that is. I have no idea why there are similar information in several places. And 2 of my papers from last year, one in Helion, which was in 2023 Q1, and one in biomedicine and pharmacotherapy, which is D1, are currently on hold. One is from Elsevier, another is from Cellpress. So both were supported by the publication fund, and probably not really investigated, because why? And we found out that we actually lost 2 papers for now, because they are not indexed in Web of Science until it's resolved. There is no timeline, there is no deadline, we will see.
Yeah, so you are touching on an issue that the boundary or borders are not very clear, but let's get us into that. What is predatory journal, and how we get there? How did they emerge in the field of scientific publication?
So, firstly, a difference between master journalist and journal citation reports is that master journalist includes journals indexed in Web of Science, while journal citation reports is another database by Clarivate, where are citations and especially impact factor counted. So I don't know how many % journals are in both databases, but if some journal is in Web of Science, doesn't mean it's always in journal citation reports. So that's the first difference. So you found information that the journal is evaluated for indexing in Web of Science. So that's the answer on your question. And about predatory journals, I would say that the main warning signs are that these journals falsely claim indexing in some databases like Web of Science Journal Citation Reports or Scopus, falsely claim impact factor, especially impact factor, or on the journal's websites there are not clear information about article processing charges. For me, that's the 3 main warning signs.
These are the signs, but what is a predatory journal?
I would say that predatory journal means resignation on peer review process. Mm-hmm. You know that at the library board we were discussing about, for example, MDPI, how is possible that their peer review process takes about 10 days or something like that. Last year we made expert analysis on MDPI for Masaryk University Open Science core team, and we found that peer review process in MDPI takes about, I guess, Lukáš, 50-60 days, while in journals of Elsevier, Springer, Wiley, or Taylor Francis, I guess it was about 120 days average. And again, when I discuss some of researchers at the Masaryk University, I was told that MDPI asked, for example, 10 or 15 researchers for making peer review, and when the editor got or gets at least 2 peer review, final peer reviews, so he can publish. So maybe MDPI found some more effective organization of peer review, but for the price that researchers are overloaded
Yeah.
So these invitations.
Yeah. So you are suggesting that the problem is with the peer review process, and the peer review process is the let's say the main mechanism that scientific community makes sure that the publication really has the essence that there's something worth publishing, that it's correctly described, and that it's correctly analyzed and correctly correctly discussed. Yeah. So and the conclusions are worth based on the data. So if there is a let's say uncertainty about the peer review process, the whole scientific endeavor and the let's say veritability or the ability to believe in the results and in the science are really endangered. Yeah. So this is perhaps something that we should be aware of and worry about. But let me ask you why there are some predatory journals. What's the let's say motivation of the publishers to do something like a predatory journal and let's say skew the review process, and what's the point?
I think that the biggest motivation of these scammers is gaining money, because there are many systemic factors going to scene, and one of it is open science and open access. But I'm thinking that many people connect automatically open science and predatory journals as two sides of one coin, and this is not true. These are completely separate things. Sorry. The philosophy of open science and open access was clear. Yeah, the intention that every taxpayer can have opportunity to read some scientific outputs without any barriers, either technical or financial. There's nothing wrong with that, but the scammers and publishing predatory journals only exploit this clear philosophy. Yeah, and this is one systemic factor. And the second could be a never-ending publish or perish phenomenon, notorious phenomenon, and also the system of assessment of scientific institutions that, especially in Czech Republic, is based on a quantitative criteria. Yeah, so this is the huge factor coming to the scene. So the interplay of these systemic factors add fuels to growth of predatory journals.
So predatory journal is something like a fake journal, yeah, that tries to pretend that everything is correct, the review process is correct, the editorial board is made of let's say recognized scientists who make the editorial policy, where the journal will go, what kind of research it will publish, but it's all fake.
I agree, but I really enjoyed the times when we as librarians had simple solutions for complicated problems. I started to cope with predatory journals in 2010, and in these times there was a Beale's list of predatory journals.
Could you explain what it is?
And Jeffrey Beale was is a librarian from University of Colorado, and they started approx in 2027 to collect some suspicious email invitations to publish in some suspicious journals, and they started to create a blog and started to create and updating the list of so-called predatory journals. And
so he recognized there are some fake journals, and he made public the list of the fake journals. And he said these are the predatory journals. Bill's list.
Bill's list of predatory publishers and so-called standalone journals. And he said some of the list of criteria he made up. And according this list of criteria, he updated the list. And this was happy times for librarians, because nothing better was in this time, and we use it as something like tools for revealing or discovering predatory journals. But the Bill's list was shut down in 2017 by himself.
Why?
Honestly, I don't know. I sent an email to Jeffrey Bill, and what happened? Where is your list? And he replied to me, I was made to shut it down, and I don't know why. And and since these times, it's been a long time, and now. I think you said something like the boundaries are blurred. And if you can imagine a ratio where on the one hand side is or are scammers, pure fraud, and the one extreme, and the other hand is a second positive extreme, there's A-level quality journals. But somewhere in the between there's some so-called gray zone. Where the borders are blurred. So for pure scammers, it's going to low-quality journals that are part of the scientific world as well as journals with local impact, or journals written in local languages. It's a natural part of a scientific world. And this mixture of some suspicious journals, so some journals that many news columns were written about, and for example MDPI, many news columns were written. It could be suspicious or could not be suspicious, and there's very complicated for us librarians to identify. So where is the true in this gray zone?
As you said, the motivation is money.
Yes.
So who doesn't want to make some money out of us? We all want to publish, and the publishers get the prize. And why the Bill's list was suspended is because there was a legal wars in the United States, because the publishers defended themselves. We are not skimmers, we are not fake publishing houses, and they usually won the trials. And another point is, when the list was created and the criteria for identification of predatory journals were made public, all the publishers improved their presentation, and they, describe what needed to be there. And just out of the website of the publisher, you are not able to distinguish a predatory journal from the established publishing house. This is one point of the blurring of the boundary, and the other point is even the established publishing houses wanted to make money. So they started to publish more special issues and open access policy, etc. So they, let's say, implemented some of the predatory journals' practices into their publishing practice as well. So this is my point of view. Am I correct, or is there anything else in
I couldn't agree more. And I only one thing I would add, that the creating of whitelists and blacklists, and from my point of view and from point of view of literature, that is pointless, because at first, these predatory journals and publishers can rebrand very quickly, and this updating these lists are almost impossible. And I think the biggest weakness of these lists is that those who create these whitelists and or blacklist, they are trying to externalize process that should be only internal. Yeah. So because our system of evaluation of our evaluation table, so-called our methodology, is only is based on formal criteria, as is only one part of more complex problem. Yeah. So the expert view is totally necessary. In the sense of distinguishing predatory journals from genuine one.
And what should guide the experts?
Our recommendation to recognize predatory journal contains 3 steps. The first step is checking formal criteria, as Lukáš mentioned. For example, criteria like if journal falsely or truly claim indexing in Web of Science and Scopus, or claims citation metrics in these databases. Then if the article processing charges are stated clearly, for example, if affiliation of the editorial board is complete and so on. There are 10 criteria. That's what our library can do for researchers to check these criteria. The second step must be made by author, and that's something like qualitative analysis of a journal. I graduated from Czech language and civics, so I cannot analyze medical or chemical journals. So author should read some articles in the journal and try to check if articles follow usual requirements on, for example, detailed description of methodology, clearer results, and so on. And third step, where the library can help again, is checking some information about background, the journal. So, for example, we look for some information on ResearcherGate, Retraction Watch, when we were discussing before we start, or Scholarly Kitchen, because on this platform many researchers share their experience. So an author will, from the library, an author can get something results from formal criteria analysis and some information from the background, and that's on him, on her, the final decision if to publish in this journal or not.
Okay, so we'll go to Jana to share her experience, but before I'll ask you about that, I'm curious, can you find these days, based on the 10 criteria, a predatory journal still, or did they all already adapted?
I perfectly know that our methodology has many limitations, and it's the formal criteria checking is valid in the time you click on the mail and send you to recipient of the mail, because the formal criteria, the predatory journal publishers can adapt to tools we use to educate ourselves in this sense, and they would correct any of these formal criteria. But it's about gray zone. The pure scammers, and we can distinguish them. They mimic some metrics. Yeah, they pretend to have an impact factor, and they pretend to be indexed in a Web of Science, and they are baiting authors, because And I think you mentioned some magic words like a quartile one, and decile one, and impact factor, and this is the biggest motivation for authors to have their articles in these indexed journals, and regardless that the impact factor is a very simple formula that was created not for assessment of the scientists, but it was created for librarians to handle library items more effectively during its origin. And now we are dancing around impact factor and we pray for it. And I think it's the bibliometric analysis and the quantitative assessment is I think is outdated and obsolete this time, but still we rely on it.
Yeah, and it's hard to see it differently. And we are also on an insecure ground because we still believe that Web of Science is a golden standard, and Web of Science is an independent, honest institution that works correctly. But now Web of Science Clarivate, it's private equity company, and the money is there as well. Yeah, so perhaps we are really in times where we will have to completely change the way we evaluate the science and get back to our experience. So Jana, how do you? You said I select a journal based on my experience. So how you built your experience? What's a good journal? What's the audience you want to target by publishing in this or that journal?
I don't believe in audience of a journal. Never started actually, because even when I started doing research, nobody really bought the journal and read it entirely. You did, okay. So.
You know me.
But I actually, when I started my PhD, I didn't really go to library. I was downloading the separate papers. So the concept of a journal is probably valid. It's a good organizational point, but for a researcher, not really necessary, is it? So I select journal. Well, how do I build experience? I build experience based on what they. Well, I tend to ask myself, what's the editor's motivation? The editor's motivation is to gain impact factor, isn't it? Maybe something more, hopefully, in some prestigious journals. If they have a good and honest and ambitious editor, then maybe something more. But generally, my experience is that they seem to ask themselves a question: will this particular paper increase my impact factor, yes or no? And based on that, you will get a pointless yet polite rejection saying too many submissions or out of scope, which is really in the scope and still you're out of scope, or not of interest of the readership of this journal. So you maybe, because you are a readership of some journal. But I feel that we are here in the hands of a private company, and we are not really aware of that. So it's Web of Science, and it's a private company. Somebody was surprised when we discussed it before we started. So this is the first problem. Second problem I feel is the peer review. We are saying a peer review as something which is standard and golden standard, but it's a peer review. It's exactly what it says. Will you be my peer in astrophysics? Happily, right? So
AI,
the peer, absolutely, right. I will write a paper with the AI. You will review it. Excellent paper. And but the problem is that the peer can know you. Hence, we can discuss the blinded process. I don't know how high the percentage of a blinded peer review process there is. By my experience, rather low. And the peer could be envious, the peer could be a friend, the peer could be simply incompetent or overly competent for a Q4 journal maybe. So it's a peer review. So even in we actually, in one of the journals that I mentioned before, which is currently on hold, the D1, by the way, in pharmacology and pharmacy, we actually got a review which was like 3 lines, not really sentences, but it happens in the best journals, obviously, as well. So sometimes you have an excellent peer review from a Q3 journal. Sometimes you have really, really bad review that you are unhappy. I did so much work and they have no comments. So that's hard as well.
Yeah, you are speaking about drawbacks, and the system definitely has drawbacks.
No, it's a nature of the peer review.
Yeah.
So even
but is it the best what we came out?
Yeah. But then if I am supposed to select the journal based on its content, then I basically have to review one issue entirely from A to Z. I'm not going to do that. There is absolutely no time. I can have some idea or something, but it would be nice to share the experience somehow with other researchers, but I don't know. Plus, my last point is it's valid in that particular time point, not before, not after, at that particular time point. So I hope that I'm going to propose a solution, partial solution, that I would really like to see by my papers published on the web of the university, the assessment of the journal and the particular time when the paper was accepted, or maybe during revision, during that time. It's probably a lot of work. But
what do you mean by that?
Well, the table, basically. Because even if I just ask for the publication fund, you check all MDPA papers, right, or MDPA journals, but not all Elsevier. So I'm not sure what you would find in these two journals where we had a problem, but maybe something. Plus, it will be clear that this paper, which is currently on hold in Web of Science, indefinitely, there is no timeline, there is no deadline, there is nothing, that this journal was okay at the time the paper was accepted. Because imagine a situation that this paper is a part of a thesis of a second-year student, maybe, and then it never gets indexed. So will the student lose the paper?
Yeah, that's the problem, yeah. These are the practical consequences of these practices, and we have to deal with that. Actually, I believe in readership scope, because when I select a journal where I want to publish, I guide myself by societies, because definitely there's, for example, Czech Psychiatric Association, American Psychiatric Associations, and they got readership, broad readership, and I want to address my colleagues. There's psychopharmacology, my field. There are societies in psychopharmacology. They have their official journal, so if I publish there, I know that I target my colleagues, my peers. Yeah? So this is the traditional way, and then I have some kind of assurance that I'm publishing in well-established journals that got a scope that is relevant, that I have a readership that is relevant, etc. The problem is with the newer journals that are not associated with societies, but you just ask your colleagues, and what kind of journals do you read? But if you don't know anyone who reads the journals in these days, this would be difficult, I agree, but perhaps we are really in front of a kind of revolution of how the scientific community publishing its results. And even the word publishing might not be relevant. Perhaps there will be a complete open science, and we will just publish it on a website of a university and let it know, and let the community to work with it. And this would be something that just hijacks the publishing companies and all the stuff. But we would have to really change the way how we evaluate the outcome of the science. I'm not sure or perhaps Twitter will, Twitter no longer exists, X or LinkedIn or something like that, or scientific networks, you know.
So again, in hands of a private company.
Do you believe in readership of a journal as a librarian?
I'm afraid I have never thought about it. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that we are talking about predatory journals in a time when, again, the boundaries are really not there. We are not able to distinguish what's predatory journal nowadays as it was before, and what do you think about let's say retroactive criticism, if I say that in 2024 or 25 someone is saying, yeah, you in 2020 or 2012 you had a paper in this journal. Is it a correct criticism, or how do you view this this criticism?
And all retroactives are wrong. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think it's in, for example, in Czech law. Yes, there's no retroactivity of law, and it should be in the publication process as well. So you choose the journal, and you choose it because it's a quality journal in your field, and the scope of your article fits there. Yeah, it's a main, and you think you should reach the broadest audience possible by if you choose the journal. And you said it very correctly that the peer review process could last year. Yeah, so many things can happen during this time. Yeah, and I think that retroactivity is going to hell if you start to think about, and in the sense of assessment of at the micro level, at level of a university, and even at the macro level as a national assessment of science, and yeah, we should not do it.
Maybe a few years ago, I was asked by one PhD student if she published in Predator Journal or not. It was some article from 2005 or something like that. Well, I could try to look on the journal website via Internet Archive. Mm-hmm. So I was lucky that the website was archived. I could find information about this journal from this year, but maybe I was lucky. And each year, journals are moving between publishers, and we don't know why. When we prepare subscription for your faculty, we must check current publisher of each journal. For example, your faculty subscribed 28 journals from BMJ, and this year we found one of these journals moved to, I guess, to Springer or Wiley. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And we don't know why. What's the benefit for this journal from this moving? And the main question for me is why scientists, especially scientific societies, gave their journals to Elsevier, Springer, and so on, last century in 30s, 40s. Maybe we wouldn't have this problem if the societies would still be publishers of these journals and guarantees of peer review. That's my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can share some insights from discussions in, let's say, scientific boards, and you know, the opinion is really developing. And there were times when someone just stood up and say, "You got a paper in this and this, for example, in MDPI," and everyone was, "Wow, this is some malpractice, etc., etc." However, you know, almost no one knew that there is something like that in 210 or 212, and when we realized that there is something like that, all the publishers already adapted, and you cannot point, you are a predatory publisher, don't do that, etc., etc. So what we consider is, let's say, suspicious is when you have your portfolio of publications, and majority of them are in, let's say, in MDPI, or majority of your publications are in special issues from one publisher, or if majority of your papers are in one journal that is not the traditional journal, that is the number one for your field or relevant for your field, yeah, because we know that there are some field relevant journals. So then this is something suspicious about some malpractice, that you went the easy way, etc. So I think that you have to diversify, and I still believe that selecting a journal based on the merit of the journal, what the journal wants to publish, what kind of science it wants to publish, is the best indicator for where you want to go with your research. But obviously, nature is the best, yeah. However, I want to move a bit, and we already touched on that, and this is open science and publishing fees for papers, and it is really something that's about significant amount of money. You mentioned several times our faculty
publication fund. Thank you very much.
Publication fund. Thank you very much.
No, it's. I honestly want to thank you, because you are behind that, and it's absolutely awesome. It allowed us to publish in a wider variety of journals, MDPI included. Because, by the way, I heard about a journal which is association journal under MDPI.
Yeah, obviously there are good journals under MDPI. Definitely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yesterday, I just say yes to publication fee in Nature. It was 7,000 euros or dollars. I don't remember. So these even Nature wants such a, and this is twice as usual fee for. In general, you would say if you pay for publishing your paper in a journal, there should be something wrong about that. So, how did we get to the practice that we pay for papers in journals, and what does it mean? Is it a malpractice, or is it a development that's in a right way? Could you comment on that?
I said it. It's very naive. I repeat it. Give back journals to societies. Mm-hmm. Because now your faculty or university pay 3 times for a research, mm-hmm. pay for a research, pay for subscription, pay for article processing charges. When I see amount of article processing charges at the websites, it's usually an average subscription of mm-hmm. one journal. Mm-hmm. So we can imagine how many publishers.
And what's the point in paying for publishing the?
The publishers will tell you that they need to pay, for example, a managing editor, printing, and so on and so on. Anyway, I guess
usually they live from the subscription. You know.
I guess it was in 2011 when European Union made an analysis of publication fees in cooperation with some publishers, and they found that the average amount for preparing and publishing article, I mean only, is about 500 euro. So that's the question why Elsevier, Springer, and so on want 2,000 euro.
No, it's a cheap policy, 2,000 euro. Yeah, I see that publishing charges. Yeah. So basically, is it related to open science or not? Publishing fees.
Yeah, it relates to if you pay the article processing charge or charges, the article or the item, so it could be a chapter of book or open access book, it's available freely on the internet, and this using or reading these articles without any barriers are very often mandatory conditions of projects and grants, European grants, and as well. And if you want to apply to some project or grant, you need to promise you will publish your articles in open access journals. So I think this is a business model. We always ended up with money or in this, and the main, the biggest, I think, 4 publishing houses hopped on this business model as well, and they turned the clear philosophy, as I mentioned, of open science and open access into their profit. And sometimes it's called double dipping. Yeah, so journal is subscribed and it's a hybrid, and simultaneously they can offer you. You can your article freely available if you paid for it, and. Yeah, and I think this situation is unbearable. Yet some attempts to improve, to make it bearable, there are in the form of transformation agreements. So something like the bigger markets like Germany, there were attempts to boycott Elsevier and come up with some agreements in the sense of pay-per-view, or yeah, we can pay this amount and you will give us some free slots, aka or tokens, or something like that. But fortunately at Masaryk University we have some of these agreements, particularly in some publishers, and on the website openscience.muni.cz there are lists of these something like a tokens or something like opportunity to publish open access articles without any cost.
So this is good news. So basically, article publishing fees doesn't equal open access fees. Yeah, so the publisher wants you to pay for publishing an article there, and they call it publishing article processing fees, and you can do an extra payment for open access of your article. Yeah, so these are 2 separate things, or they go together.
And I think that the article processing charges, APC, is you need to pay it upon acceptance of your article, and this is the huge amount of money. Even the extreme you said, $7,000, and it's only one fee you need to pay. But I think the publisher itself can divide this fee into some manipulative submission fee, and it's very often included in the article processing charges. So they how they define the particular fees, I don't know. It's up to them, but you need to pay. In case of prestigious publishers, an exact exact fee.
So you have to check if the APC covers the open access policy as well.
Yeah.
The general idea, if I understand it correctly, for open access policy of the European Union is if we grant you public money to do the research, so the outcomes of the research should be made publicly available for no extra costs. Yeah, so there was this is the idea behind that, if I understand it correctly. So this is correct that you publish in open access mode, and sometimes you have to pay for that. Yeah, so the problem is, from the point of the publishers, that they usually live from the subscriptions. Now they live from the subscriptions and from the open access policy as well. Yeah? So this is how the union created another business opportunity for the publisher houses. Yeah? So publishing in an open access doesn't mean that you publish in a predatory journal. So this is not
exactly
motivation as well. Okay. So, is there anything that you would add to what we just covered, or can we go to the questions? Yeah, okay. So, Kateřina Nováková asks how to recognize predatory journals and predatory conference, and I think that we already covered that, and what to do when the journal where I published 6 years ago was okay, but now has a predatory category. I think that if you have someone who asks you why did you publish there, and this is predatory, you will have to explain. Yeah, at the time when I published there, this wasn't, and this is the journal that has the audience that I wanted to target, and this in my field of science, this is a recognized journal that we publish our results and we read it. So it's you need to have the story behind that. But I think that the community already recognized that you cannot rely on one time point that something happened, that if there are not such a, let's say, a pattern that you take advantage of something, that this is a correct practice.
But it's still a bad luck if you decide to go to politics, and then this is a complicated story. And complicated stories don't go to newspapers. So it's bad luck.
It's bad luck, but you still might be able to communicate it better than the example that we all know. Yeah, and it's not always wise to blame your student that that made you the problems. Abanu Briat is asking, in your opinion, what exactly makes MDPI a suspicious publisher? Do not you see that classical publishers Springer, Elsevier, TNF adopt similar aggressive marketing strategies of MDPI? Yeah, that's correct, and I think that we covered that the boundary is not clear, and that nowadays it's very hard to point to one publishing house that it's not correct, and I think that from today's perspective, you are not able to blame MDPI or Frontiers or something else that is really predatory. And I think that the field moved.
I was very interested in MDPI, and also a question, why MDPI and not Frontiers? Mm-hmm. But the only thing that I ever found like against MDPI, besides their ugly submission system that I don't like, but that's a personal preference, is I have this experience from my Italian colleague, because for habilitation in Italy you need to be in an editorial board somewhere. So where? MDPI or Frontiers or both. So he's got editorial experience from both, and he said that the problem with MDPI is that they want to be super quick, which is great for the authors, but then they don't really wait for the editor to appoint the reviewer, and they automatize the process. Well, Czech Science Foundation does the same, basically, but there is still the person to decide, to bottleneck the situation, to really to have to do the click, and nothing does the click for you. While in MDPI, the system can really, if you fail to appoint a reviewer to be asked to do the review in like 48 hours or something really, really short, then it's done automatically for you. You can retract it, but would you? So as opposed to Frontiers, where there is still the editor who has to actually send the email. So that's the only thing about
you
MDPI.
You have to try and get the experience.
And there are two other reasons why MDPI is discussed. The first one is a high number of special issues, but MDPI publish only special issues. So that's the first reason.
Still, they got some journals.
And the second one, dramatically increase of the number of articles. So that's the two reasons. But again, that's their publishing policy to public article as soon as possible.
Sorry, very briefly. I think it's great that Maastricht University issued a statement for MDPI. Yeah, so the approach is clear, and I think that the political decisions are very important, even in science, in this sense.
And we don't say MDPI is or is not predatory.
That's important.
Each MDPI journal, as well as each another publisher journal, must be evaluated individually. And maybe we could talk about your experience with Elsevier's and Cell Press journals.
Actually, do you serve as a reviewer?
Yes.
Do you still do that?
Yeah. Shouldn't I?
Yeah.
It's part. I always say it's part of the job. So I want someone to do it for me. So I have to be bothered.
Actually, with the, let's say, inflation of Chinese papers, I really select what to review or what not. This is about you spoke about drawbacks of review process that you expect that a fair approach, someone who really knows what you are doing, who can see the details and.
But it's really hard to come by. Yeah. Sometimes you're rejected because of some statistical detail which has no importance in the overall story, and it's just not formally incorrect. It's just by the opinion of the editor, it's formally incorrect or whatever, and sometimes you get you get applauded for something you shouldn't have.
It's tough.
So it's rare. I generally rarely have a review I am happy with, like critical enough.
10 pages of review, 30 points of, and you are happy about that because you really got a fair evaluation of your work.
Someone read it.
I agree with you. Sarah Schreiber wants to ask, in your opinion, what could have prevented the emergence of predatory magazines? Guys.
I think that it's one thing is clear, it's a very complicated question. And I think that the change at the macro level would prevent them from publishing these scam journals. Yeah, I think that the huge change must come into scene to change all these behaviors in the sense of assessment of scientific institutions. There are some attempts like a QARA, Coalition for Advancing Research something, and I think it is an initiative of many European institutions that sign it, and Maastricht University is part of that. I think it's working group or something like a task force for responsible metrics and indicators, if I'm not mistaken. That is great, and that this initiative can push forward something like a qualitative assessment, and they try to see a wide array of contribution to the science, not only citation counts or not only articles counts, and I think and crossed fingers
In other words, stop, publish and perish system and quantitative analysis, evaluation.
Yeah. Similar or related question from Natalia Dastichová. If a paper is evaluated as predatory, be in a predatory, I'm translating from Czech, sorry for my clumsiness. How the authorities view that, and how do they view that in terms of evaluation of publication activity? So it's about the evaluation of science, and nowadays we don't discriminate any publishing house in terms of publishing activity. When you are in a situation, for example, in thesis defense or habilitation or professorship, there might be a question: why did you choose this journal for publication of your results? And this is MDPI. So, did you know that it was a questionable publisher or not? And give the story behind your decision. And the other part is about QARA and qualitative evaluation of research. And on the national level, we have a module, module 1, that is, we submit the best outputs of our university. They are peer reviewed, and they are labeled if they really merit, if they have a standard, national, international, whatever, based on the outcomes, and you know, the field is moving this way. Yeah, not to evaluate everything, every outcome, every abstract that you submit somewhere, but to present the best of the best, and what you were able to achieve, and to evaluate based on that. But this is still a long way to go to get there. Daniel Schwarz, yeah. What Daniel wants to know: what are your thoughts on the impact factor as a key metric for assessing the quality of a publication? Is it perhaps overvalued? Is there truly a correlation between a journal impact factor and the quality of an individual article in it? So, do we need to comment on that? I think this.
Its impact factor is definitively overvalued.
This is definitely
and there's no correlation between quality of research paper and the impact factor, and there is no correlation between quality of individual and impact factor. Is only some very simple metric and a very simple formula saying something about journal in general. Yeah.
So it should speak about the editorial policy of the journal, that it selects the best papers that are highly cited. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's about the quality of the journal, not about the a kind of a proxy measure, and hopefully there is a reflection of that.
Yeah, it's only about citation count.
Is a highly cited paper a good paper?
That's a question. Yeah. Related question is there a better metric than impact factor? For example, JCI, citation indexing. Is there a correlation, or is it a better?
I'm afraid that it's for another 1 hour discussion, because we could start talk about citation circles, citation cartels, how they can depend, citations, impact factor, JCI, and so on and so on.
As an author, thank you. I generally orient myself rather by the rank of the journal in the category than the impact factor itself. I find it kind of, I don't know, if you're in the top 10%, it probably means something, as opposed to the bottom 10%. Anything a bit in between is probably fair enough.
And it depends by with metrics the category sorted. If it's sorted by impact factor.
Yeah. Anna Jacobson asks, I think the questions that we already covered, there are a range of systemic factors that have contributed towards allowing predatory publishing to thrive in academia, including the gold author pays model of open access, stress on the peer review system, and use of quantitative publication metric as a proxy to assess researcher or institute quality. Are you able to touch on this issue and whether there is impetus for change in this regard, either locally or internationally? I think that the field is about to change, but no one is certain at the moment what is the best way and how to transform the evaluation into the money. Yeah, because basically what we need to do is to allocate resources based on something. Yeah, and if we have a number, it's very easy to do that. We can do an equation, an algorithm, and just easy to do that. But if you have a qualitative measures, you have to start to think about contract financing or something like that, allocating budget for a certain period to, and expect some outcomes. And it is a tough thing to do. But I think this is a way that we will get in near future. Miloš Barták, validity and feasibility of criteria to distinguish between predator and not predator scientific journals. I think that your 10 points are clear indication. And Rich Zimmerman, should ethical researchers consider alternatives to publishing giant elsewhere, or has pay-to-play become the new norm in the 21st century? Yeah, you touched on the German issue, so I think that if we know that every publisher's let's say motivation is to make money, that we know that that practices might not be, let's say, best suited for the scientific community. But I still believe that if the journals are still linked to the scientific societies, there should be some guarantee about the merit, about the essence of science still lives there. But do you have any solutions to this question?
I have no simple solutions and no idea about how simple solutions would be. But I think that our Czech market is too small to have a power in negotiation. I think some negotiation with these giants like Elsevier, Springer, Wiley, and so on should be led on something like a European Union level or something like that, because I think there's a monopoly for scientific literature, and unfortunately, for example, Elsevier perfectly knows that some scientific disciplines cannot avoid their journals. There are some specific, very narrow disciplines and a very narrow, in the sense of scope, the journals, and published only by Elsevier or some another publishers. And these publishers perfectly know that some of these scientific discipline could not deny these journals if they want to be in a place where the most significant scientific discussions occur.
I actually have an author doubt. Will I ever be judged by the number and quality of papers which are within my, let's say, expertise? There's a couple of categories that my expertise generally falls in, like neuroscience, pharmacology, pharmacy, hopefully multidisciplinary, and etc. But I'm pretty sure I published outside of these categories as well. Does it matter?
Is there a problem?
Will there be? No, because
when?
Soon. Because apparently the system has to change. I mean, I do have my idealistic beliefs, but at the end of the day, I give the beast what it wants. I need to be cited all right, hence open access. Open access papers are cited more because they are open access. Before publication fund, I did put at least everything as a stored copy on a ResearcherGate, and I sent the people the stored copy upon request. Works pretty fine. I'm not sure how far it is legal or I don't know, but it was always a private message, and open access can be there. I do publish, generally try to publish as much as I can in impact factors as high as I can within the category. That's what I was saying, that not the absolute value of the impact factor, but the position within the category. So yeah, of course they are ordered by impact factors, but still in plant physiology, the median will be 1. In genetics, it will be 30, so I don't know. So if the system has to change, and we should be publishing in journals which are relevant for your expertise and for your professional associations. Audience. So if I then publish in neuroimaging, or imaging only, or public, out of my usual categories, will it ever matter for habilitation, for professorship, for whatever? Because it makes sort of sense, right?
I don't think it makes sense. Okay. And I believe it ever will make a sense. So be optimistic. Let's be optimistic. I think that we covered all the questions and our today's topic, but before we end, I would like to ask you about the fora you mentioned, where to gain the insights from your peers about their experience, because I'm afraid today we didn't give a clear guideline how to avoid predatory journals and how to select a journal, but it's still about think what you want to do and be sure that you made all let's say things that could be done to prevent anything that's unwanted. Yeah, but you mentioned Science Kitchen or similar fora where you can share experiences. Could you say more about that before we leave?
Scholarly Kitchen or Retraction Watch. That's the website where scientists share their experience, so I can recommend to check if there are some information about the journal or publisher of this journal. Anyway, we are talking about publication ethics, so there cannot be some, it's not law, so we cannot give some clear guide how to recognize predatory. We can only prepare something like proofs to final decision. And this decision will be always on the author.
So Retraction Watch and...
Retraction Watch, Scholarly Kitchen, or discussion on the ResearcherGate. And let me remind you that our library provides to the whole university our service on checking formal criteria. So of course anyone can ask for this service.
Perfect, thank you for that.
And I would like to add the new to me master journal list, where I found that my Q1 and D1 journals were actually on hold. So it wouldn't help me anyway, because one of them went on hold 2 days after actually accepting my paper, so to do. But, and I found at least some information in Retraction Watch. But regarding the other one, absolutely, I mean, radio silence everywhere. It's not mentioned on the website of the journal, it's not mentioned in the journal citation reports, it's only mentioned in the master journal list.
Yeah, there's still room for surprises in the field of scientific publishing.
And we have no idea why it happened. Actually, there is no reasoning, and there probably will never be like a verdict or something. It will simply be indexed for the next year or not.
Okay, so fingers crossed for your papers. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me today. I think it was a very interesting discussion. I really enjoyed it. I hope that you that came had the same experience, and have a nice day. Yeah. See you next time. Bye-bye.